With the background you see, it looks like I'm in Strasbourg, and in the world of today, I could just enjoy this trip. I wouldn't have to worry about having to flee here to avoid being beheaded, imprisoned, or burned at the stake. So what is the event that changed people's thinking and caused people to flee here to avoid persecution? What is the day that is still celebrated by some and neglected by others? It is the Protestant Reformation. If I read a Bible or said the Lord's Prayer in a language that wasn't Latin before the Reformation, I might have to flee here to avoid being persecuted or martyred. The Protestant Reformation officially started when Martin Luther, a German Augustinian priest, presented his 95 Theses in Wittenberg, Saxony on October 31st, 1517. He posted it the day before All Saints, knowing people would be in church the next day. His thesis challenged portions of the Roman Catholic doctrine, such as purgatory, the authority of the Pope, and a number of practices such as selling indulgences. His thoughts became widespread as the printing press was available. Luther, like other reformers, only wanted the Catholic Church to return to sound doctrine. Reformers were members of the Catholic Church and were not trying to start a new church. However, when their attempts to reform the Roman Catholic Church failed, they were usually excommunicated, persecuted, or martyred. Later, they were given the name Protestants because they protested against the practices of the established Roman Catholic Church. Jan Hus, the Bohemian priest, was declared a heretic and excommunicated at the Council of Constance. He was burned at the stake in 1415, and John Wycliffe's manuscripts were used as kindling. Among his dying words, Hus proclaimed, "In 100 years, God will raise up a man whose calls for reform cannot be repressed." And sure enough, in 1517, Martin Luther set in motion thoughts that would change people's thinking about salvation and certain church practices. John Wycliffe's corpse was exhumed and his bones were burned. William Tyndale was burned at the stake. The Anabaptists were drowned, mocking their belief of baptism by submersion in water. Martin Luther is called the father of the Reformation as he helped birth it. However, other men before Luther started the movement, wanting the people to have Bibles in their own language. Before this time, the clergy assumed the common people could not read or interpret the Bible for themselves. Many of the reformers were highly educated and attended schools like Oxford and St. Andrews. They were priests, theologians, Bible translators, and often spoke more than one language. Martin Luther translated the Bible into German. John Wycliffe and William Tyndale did English translations. And the Geneva Bible was done by a colony of English Protestants in exile. They were under the direction of Coverdale and John Knox of Scotland, and under the influence of John Calvin of France. In Germany, some states still celebrate Reformation Day as a holiday. Reformation Day falls on the same day as Halloween, and some families prefer to celebrate Reformation Day instead. When I taught in school, some children couldn't stay awake the day after Halloween. They told me they had had nightmares. As an alternative to Halloween, families might dress in time period costumes or eat foods from countries involved in the Reformation. There are resources on the internet for Reformation Day, activities for the whole family. There are DVDs available for sale or at the public libraries about the Reformation. If you're interested, you might look at some titles, which might be This Changed Everything, the movie Luther, Calvin and Zwingli, John Wycliffe, the Morning Star, Knox, Here I Stand, The Undying Faith of Jan Hus, A Man Named Luther, and A History of Christianity. From a genealogical perspective, you might be intrigued by details about your ancestors during this time period. I am a Huguenot descendant, and it was so easy to research my French side of the family because the trail of the Huguenots was well documented due to the persecution. Other keywords to research besides reformers and Protestant denominations are Walloons, W-A-L-L-O-O-N-S, and Lollards, L-O-L-L-A-R-D-S. So, what can we take away from all this? Why might we like to celebrate Reformation Day? I know I can appreciate that I can attend the church of my choice, and I can read the Bible and pray in my own language without being imprisoned or martyred. I can have the assurance that I am saved and will go to heaven based on my faith in Jesus Christ, and not because I purchased indulgences or did penance. And I can also be inspired by the lives of the Reformers. Mary, Queen of Scots, said she feared the prayers of John Knox more than all the assembled armies of Europe. Also, I admire Luther, Huss, and others who stuck to their convictions even when opposed and threatened. Some other things we might appreciate are that after the Reformation, people began to enjoy congregational singing, and children could make up their own decision about being baptized. So whether you choose to celebrate the Reformation or just learn more about it, I wish you all a happy Reformation Day this and future October 31st.